The conversation we'll be having with Veronica today will just be around how she was able to get global opportunities. She's going to be sharing her key learnings with us and just to help people who are currently in that position. Maybe you're a graduate, you're a student, just learnings from our own experience and recruitment opportunities, global opportunities that are out there for you.
Hi, Rhoda. Thanks for having me. My name is Veronica, and I am an analyst at Bank of America. I've been at Bank of America for slightly over a year now. I am also the co founder of Gradients, which is a platform that helps students, just like what Rhoda is doing, bridge the gap between opportunity and information. Our key focus when we started were African students, but now we're trying to expand it to anyone really who is willing to listen to us, and because we realize that this content is helpful to everyone. Through Gradients, we have the Growth Podcast, which I co-host with my friend Kola Omokende, and she has a YouTube channel as well to young people. So I'm always really excited to help young people to get opportunities, share information, and just like guide them through career opportunities. I'm really big on volunteering and just mentoring people in my free time. Fun fact about me, I love to swim, and today I started golf lessons.
Oh wow. Just to jump right into it, right? So the first question I would like to ask you is how did you get multiple offers? Because I remember that I'd seen a video that you did with Bukola on a
Yeah.
channel. And you had mentioned that I think you got multiple offers, I think from Goldman and Bank of America. So that was like my first question that I was planning to ask you. How did you get these multiple offers, considering the fact that you have no finance background? You studied law, I believe. So what do you think
Yes.
made you stand out and how did you get these multiple offers from these top investment banks?
Thank you very much. So I got the multiple offers in 2020, which was the COVID year. It was during lockdown. And at the time, I was in law school. And I think it was a combination of so many factors. At the time, because of lockdown, because of COVID, we were in lockdown. And even though I was in law school, truth is, I had time. Like during lockdown, that was when a lot of us had time to actually, take a step back, think about what we really wanted to do after school for those of us that were still in school. And even for people who were done with school, it was the time to just reflect on your life choices and where you wanted to go from there. And because we were all bored, we realized we needed to spend our time doing exactly what we loved doing. And year before that, which was 2019, my best friend Bukola had gotten the internship at Bank of America. But at this point, I'm going to backtrack slightly. When we were both in our final year in uni, that was in 2019, Bank of America came to University of Lagos to speak to students about opportunities at the bank. And that was the first time I really got a good insight into what it means to work in an investment bank. I was very excited to hear that an investment bank can actually come to Nigeria and recruit undergraduate students. It was mind blowing for me because I had never heard of such. And I heard they'll cover all your expenses if you do like the internship, and then if you do well during the internship, stand the chance to get a full time offer. For me, this was mind blowing, and I had never heard of such thing. So for me, it was like, oh my god, I really need to get this because this is my passport out of the trenches. But then I didn't know what investment banking was. It was so confusing to me. So I had to research and just gather as much information. But what I did when the staff of Bank of America came to my uni was to connect with them both in person when I met them and then take it offline to connect with them on LinkedIn. So I got the chance to connect with them and then, set up some meetings with some of them, read about their backgrounds on LinkedIn, especially for those of them that studied in Nigeria. I wanted to know more about how they were able to, get the opportunity. So that year, I was just spending it gathering information, figuring out how I, who studied law, would sell myself into finance because most of the people that were in that session were people who studied finance, accounting, business administration, engineering, people who knew math. I'm not that strong in math. So I was like, okay, is gonna be something that I have to go into strategically. And I was genuinely very confused about the whole thing. Bukola, on the other hand, was more aggressive than I was. She was like, "Oh my god, I need to know this." She was speaking with a lot of people, and she just kept talking about how, like, the more she spoke with people, the more exciting the whole thing sounded. She was talking about how they would fly people to New York for like trainings. I'm like, damn, I'm interested in this, but I was still genuinely so confused. Fast forward to the end of 2019, it was time to apply, but Bukola applied. I didn't apply. Partly because I was lazy and still confused about where to apply, how to go about the application. So when Bukola got the offer by the end of 2019, it dawned on me that if my friend can get this, I can also get it. So I leveraged her since she already got it. I asked her all the questions I had in my mind. How were you able to get this opportunity? What was the process like? What kind of questions did they ask you during your interview? What did you do to prepare? So I thought, okay, I would apply the following year. Thankfully, I was still in the middle of, I still had the window of opportunity to apply because I was going to law school the following year. I started preparing my CV. I realized because I studied law, I had to find a way to demonstrate my interest in finance. Started signing myself up for finance courses online, not just general things, but things that will help me learn more about investment banking, and just how the investment service industry worked. And it was a good strategy because it not only helped me learn, it also helped me to understand what I was trying to figure out in the investment banking space, which was where I fitted in as someone who studied law. And I realized going into risk finance was the best option for me because I will be able to sell my skills. My skills from law were very transferable into there, and it won't be hard to tell them, look, I didn't study finance, but I have done these courses to demonstrate my interest in finance, and my legal skills will come in handy in this particular division. So I started putting my CV together to suit the way investment banking CV should be, and I started, prepping. So I spent my lockdown period doing interview preps for myself, as gathering online materials, interview prep resources, and just trying to prepare as much as possible, fine tuning my CV. And I started thinking about how I was going to answer the application questions as well, because there were some essays I had to answer for both Goldman and Bank of America. At the time, I was also doing a long term internship with a legal research organization called Lata. So that was something I was doing while I was still doing my law school online classes and then prepping for these opportunities. Because I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket, I decided I was going to apply to both Goldman Sachs and Bank of America because if I can apply to both, why not? Yeah. So I did. I started prepping for both and started speaking to people that worked in both Bank of America and Goldman Sachs. Just gathering information. Application season came around July, August, September, and I started writing all my questions down and then putting together my cover letter for Goldman and essays for Bank of America. When applications opened, I sent in my applications, did the interviews, the online higher view interviews that you had to do, which will qualify you for the next phase. The first one I applied for was Goldman. Got in for the so Goldman's stage is slightly different. It takes about 3 weeks to get the higher view link, so you will know if you go through to the next stage. But Bank of America, on the other hand, is kind of automatic if you minimum requirement. But for the Goldman one, 3 weeks later, I got the higher view link. I was so excited because I almost missed it. I literally saw the email on the deadline. That's a story for another day. But the day I saw it, I was ready because I had been reaching out to people, asking them questions, gathering my resources online, using Glassdoor to find questions, possible higher view questions for Goldman. And I even went as far as recording myself. I find it hard to delete those footages from my laptop because I have them on my laptop till today, and it just reminds me of that period. And I just don't want to delete them because it's a phase that was quite interesting for me. But I really went all out when it came to prepping for that interview, and it helped me because when the time came, I just saw the email and I was like, "Oh, I have to do this today," and I jumped in. I did the interview, and then a while to get back to me. I was so nervous about it. Bank of America, on the other hand, sent me my email saying I made it through to the final stage, and I was so excited also. And that one was a three-stage interview. So the first one was for behavioral questions, second one was for technical questions, and then we had a case study to do. But because I had been prepping for both investment banks, it wasn't difficult for me to go through that process again. I had gathered information online and people had prepped me. I remember when I got the invite for Goldman's final interview, I reached out to people on LinkedIn and told them I got my invite for my super day because that's what they call it, Goldman Sachs. And could you please do like a mock interview for me? And they were like, yeah, sure. I was surprised. Five people said yes to me on LinkedIn. That is rare because I don't even have time to do a mock interview for anyone these days. So I was very happy that people people actually said yes to my request. And these were people that I did not know before, but people who worked at Goldman. And I think one thing that helps them say yes to me was my approach to it. And of course, when they see that, oh, this person has made it to the final stage, they're like, okay, it probably just needs a little bit of polishing. So it's always important to just try your luck, reach out to people. Before those five people said yes, obviously I must have sent to more than five people. But having five people to say yes to prep you for an interview is a big deal. And I only had a 2 day window for it, but it was enough time for me to prep. Again, everything was suspended. So I was in my house. I had time. So sometimes there are factors beyond your control, like having time. Because I was also in law school. If they were telling me to go for in-person classes and all to say, I probably would not have had as much time as I did to prep. So my advice to people is always give it enough time. Start early so that in case the period when your interview comes, you don't really have time, you will not be stuck. Anyways, fast forward to the interview, it came. Had like three stages of the interview for Goldman, and that went really well. I knew at the end of that interview that I was going to get an offer. Then back on America's one came as well, and it was three gruesome interviews, I must say, especially my case study because that one was technical and we had limited time to prepare. It was not something you could have prepared for. It was they'll give you a case study and you just have to think about your answers, prepare slides, a presentation, and answer questions at the end. So that one was a true test of whether you want how badly you wanted it. So but thankfully, I really wanted it badly, and I made sure that I did everything that I needed to do to get to make sure that my slides were nice and my preparation was good enough. So I did the three. 2 months later, Goldman reached out to me to say, "Oh, congratulations! Um, we want to give you offer, blah 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 blah." And then Bank of America too came 2 days after. It was like 2 days, 5 days apart. It was very close. So it was in towards the end of December, so it was like the best time ever. And then the internship I was doing at the time also gave me an offer. So at that time, I was
Wow.
swimming in job offers. I was like, ah, God, is this me? And I was still in law school at the time. I didn't even know when we were going back to school. So it was quite interesting for me, but that's a period I can never forget. I'm just happy that
Okay.
I spent that period investing in my personal development and just preparing myself for the opportunity. And when it came, I didn't let it slip through my fingers. So acknowledge
Okay.
God because I wouldn't have gotten those multiple offers without His grace.
I feel like you've actually touched on every single question I have planned, right? So just to delve a little bit deeper, I'm going to like pick on a couple things that you've mentioned. So the first thing you mentioned was that when you're preparing your applications that you leverage online materials. So now I want you to like specifically tell us, oh, you went to this website or you had this access to this material so that people who are watching this can also know okay that they can go to this website. I know you mentioned Glassdoor for interview questions, but if there are other sources of information or resources that people can go to or refer to prepare for their application process, I think that would be nice as well.
Thank you. I'll just take a moment to find them because people always reach out to me and I'm like, okay, I already have a template and I'll send it to you. But I need to open them to just like look at it while telling you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, so I These materials, I can't even say exactly where I got them from because some of them I got, maybe I watched a YouTube video of someone who got an offer at Goldman and they linked something in the show notes of their video, or someone on LinkedIn sent it to me, or someone posted something on LinkedIn that had the links to the materials. I just found them randomly online. But there is one that I think is like really good, and it comes from a website called Breaking Into Wall Street. I think this was a very useful material, and I believe is available online. HTTP slash breaking into wallstreet.com. It's a material that is like 400, I don't know how many pages long, 200 pages ish, and it has 400 questions that will help you answer investment banking questions. And it's not just about the questions, but also steps to how to answer it. So it will give you tips on how best to answer what the interviewer wants to hear when you get this kind of question. So I thought it was, in fact, it was, I would argue that it was the best material that I used. There's also another one called Vault's Guide to Investment Banking. Vault's Guide was also very, very useful. And I know that there's Vault's Guide to different industries like management, consulting, etc. But most people who have gotten into investment banking, Citibank, UBS, Goldman can attest that this material was very helpful. It also contains questions, whether behavioral, technical, or um, just different kinds of markets related questions that would help you. Now, another thing that I must give credit to is Google Alert. A lot of young people don't use it to their advantage. So because you are applying to an investment bank, you have to stay commercially. So just go on Google Alerts. The first link you will see there will guide you through how to create a Google Alert. And what is a Google Alert? It basically would send you an email when there is anything on the internet relating to a topic, any topic that you've created an alert for. So if I want to know anything about Bank of America, for example, I'll just create a Google alert for Bank of America. If anything new pops up on Bank of America, whether from their own website or from an external source, it will send me an email saying with all the links that came up today on that topic. And I think that was really helpful because at the time I deleted my social media and I was so bored that my Google Alerts became my best friend. So when I see my Google, and I had Google Alerts for different things like so many topics, finance services industry, compliance in finance, just any topic that pops in my head that I wanted to know about, I'll create a Google Alert for it, and every day I'll start reading it. I'll just go to my email. There's several links. You can't exhaust the links that you find on the Google Alert and just read what you want to know. Because staying commercially aware is like super important. You don't know the question they'll ask you. I remember in one of my interviews, they asked me to talk about something that's happening in the industry today that relates to the role that I am applying for. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I was able to give a very sound answer that it takes only someone who has done severe research into that field. Same thing about the company too. You need to do like in-depth research on them. So people say read the company's website, but that's not enough because the things on the company's website are usually very generic. And as an interviewer, they can tell when you're reading their website to them. But it takes someone who has done in-depth research to tell you the latest project that the company is working on. A very good example would be one candidate says the core values of the company are stated on their website versus a candidate that gives them two examples of how they've implemented their core values. Obviously, the interviewer will gravitate towards the candidate that has given them examples of things that demonstrate their core values. So that's an example. So leveraging LinkedIn, YouTube, I watched tons of investment banking related YouTube videos at the time. And Google Alerts, those materials that I mentioned were super helpful.
All right, thank you very much, Veronica. So still on the topic of the application process, right? I know that you mentioned that you did mock interviews, right? So let's say, for example, someone doesn't have access to someone who is in the bank, right? Or let's say, for example, you even have access to someone who is in the bank and you want to do a mock interview. How do you advise that a potential candidate go about it?
Anyone who has gone through the process should be able to have questions for you. So I did not have to give them my questions because if they know that they're coming for a mock interview, they'll just have questions prepared. And to be honest, it doesn't really take that much to think about questions. Because for me, because I have these resources, I can just look at them and pick out questions. And I also have like the questions that I used to prepare written down. So I still have them. I can use them for someone. But I believe that anyone who has gone through the process can help with that. However, I must also talk about another approach that I used, and that was when I was preparing for the higher view interview. So, a higher view interview is an interview where the it's done virtually. They send you a link, questions just pop up on your screen, and you respond by recording yourself. It's timed. There's no interviewer on the other side. So it's different from an actual interview where there's an interviewer who is responding and you can see who you're speaking to. This one is just like you're recording your answers for them to now review at a later time. Because I knew I was going to do that for my Bank of America application, whilst I was preparing my essay and giving people to review, I told them to I started recording myself. I mentioned I was recording myself, just prepping and practicing these interview questions. So I remember reaching out to someone for a mock interview for Hireview, knowing that Hireview was timed and I'll get the link immediately after I submit my application. I wanted to be ready for it before I submitted my application. So the person told me, oh, she doesn't think she'll have a time slot short that she can stay for certain that she will be able to help me. So I said, okay, what if I recorded myself and sent it to you to review in your own free time? And she was like, sounds like a good idea. So what I did was to just set myself up, put all the possible high view questions I've gotten online and just answered them in a video. So I would ask myself the question or put the question on the screen and then answer it. I recorded myself. It was quite a long video, it was like 40 minutes long or even more. But I was like, she should just review as much as she could. And I sent it to her, then reached out to someone else and asked her if I could send it to her. And she was like, okay, fine. And they took their time to review the videos and gave me feedback. So that's another option. And it's almost as good as a mock interview because they will still give you feedback and it helps the person because they are doing it in their own time. So if they get bored, they can just be like, I'll continue later and then they'll give you feedback. It was a good approach, and I think people should also do that.
Actually, that's a very good approach because I don't think that would offer to everybody. Because imagine someone saying, "No, they don't have the time." You probably think, "Okay, I should just quit now." But I think I like the approach that you had towards it. So the final question I have on the application process was: you mentioned that Bank of America has a technical interview, right? So just to clarify, I'm not sure if it's just Bank of America or Goldman as well. But just to clarify, right? So the technical interview, the questions they're asking, is this specific to the division you applied to, or is it just specific to investment banking itself?
It's specific to the division you are applying to.
Okay, so moving on, right? So I saw on your LinkedIn, right, that you took part or you participated in SEO Africa as well. So I want to ask you, what role did you think SEO played in you getting these opportunities?
SEO actually came in after I got it. So SEO Africa and Bank of America have some sort of partnership where they train incoming, especially yeah. So SEO Africa came into the picture after we got the internship, but we were required to have a training with them, an intense training at that with SEO Africa to prepare us because to be fair, there's a gap for people coming from Africa, and SEO needed to fill that gap. Basic Excel training. Um, I remember them asking us to do like reports on news, basically anything new happening in the market industry, just so that we could be commercially aware and know that look, you need to stay sharp and commercially aware while doing this. Basic communication skills, Excel training, just different things, and the basics of finance, time value of money, all those things that people might not know. So they've just made sure that we were polished and ready to, go into a multinational space and shine. So that was the role they played.
That's awesome. But it seems like your experience is different because I believe there are some people who get into SEO prior to applying to these opportunities. And then it's after
Yeah.
the
So
opportunity.
actually, now that you say that, it occurred to me that there's actually the Goldman. So the SEO, because you mentioned you saw it on my LinkedIn, I answered it from the point of view of the role they played in my Bank of America opportunity. Now, for Goldman, I remember that I actually applied through SEO Africa as well. So there is the opportunity to apply for Goldman. SEO recruits for Goldman Sachs. But my own Goldman application that landed me that offer, the full time offer, was a direct application to Goldman. However, because I know that SEO Africa was also like recruiting for Goldman's London office, I applied through them. But that was for an internship. At some point in the application stage, SEO now transferred me to the London office of Goldman. So they will now hand you over to Goldman Sachs to make the final decision. But mine was kind of peculiar because by the time they handed me over to Goldman Sachs saw on their system that I already had an offer with another office in another country. So they were like, okay, we had to end this one because you can't have two offers in two offices. But yeah, there's a different SEO process, but I think that opportunity is only available to undergraduate students. The one I applied for was directly on Goldman's website. It was actually a summer internship, but by the time I was done, they gave me full time offer. I still don't know till today how that happened, but
What?
that's another story.
Wow. That's actually interesting. So you're saying you applied for the internship program, but they gave you an offer for that's their analyst program. I believe that's their full time program.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
I went to their portal and saw new analyst, and I had to like reach out to HR that please I apply for a summer internship, but I'm seeing that I'm a new analyst. What's going on here? They're like, yeah, they changed it to full time. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm not gonna ask too many questions.
So while we're
Yes.
talking about this offer now, right? So I want to ask you a question on how you are able to make your decision, right? Because Bank of America and Goldman, these are like two of like the top investment banks in the world. So like, what would you say were the deciding factors for you?
That's a very good question. And I don't only those people that probably watched that video know that I faced this dilemma. But my approach to it was very logical, and the end of the day, I'm happy with the decision I made. So my offer with Goldman was with another office in Poland. It wasn't their London office. And I got the offer before Bank of America. Bank of America's one was summer internship. So obviously I had to accept full time first and hold that one because I don't know whether your summer internship will be converted to a full time offer. So I got the full time offer at Bank of America. But before then, I had been speaking with people who worked in the Goldman Poland office, which was the office that I got the offer in, to just let them know my situation and I'd ask for their advice. So I looked into like the work culture there, the like the community there and everything. So I spoke specifically to Nigerians who were working there so that they can give me the truth exactly how it is. And they were like, look, girl, the consensus was if they were in my shoes, they would make sure they secured their London opportunity because London is generally a better place to be. Plus, the role in bank, I got a different role at Goldman. It wasn't risk or compliance. So it was quite easy to just make that decision. The pay in London was better. Um, the people who were working there had advised me, look, girl, even we are trying to make our way to London. So if you can get a full time opportunity, then take your London opportunity. But I remember some other people saying, oh, it's Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is like is a force to reckon with and all. I'm like Bank of America is also a force to reckon with. The second biggest investment bank in US. What are you telling me? So I just said, okay, it was quite easy to make the decision. decision. All my friends were in London. That was where I had the community. The pay was better. It was in terms of even the values of the company. To be honest, I prefer the values of Bank of America. So I was like, okay, I made my decision.
Let's say for someone who has gotten this opportunity, they are doing their internship, I believe, for 3 months, and they are looking to get a return offer. What would you say the person should look out for? What are the things they should be proactive about?
I would say first of all, be very intentional about it. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and there's so many people who would love to be in your shoes. So don't take it for granted. Key thing for you to be doing during your internship is networking and making sure that the right people know who you are for the right reasons. So make sure you're speaking with people at different levels. Don't think anybody is too small for you. Speak with analysts, speak with associates, speak with VPs, speak with MDs. Make sure that all the senior leaders know who you are and be organized. Make sure that you attend all your meetings. If you have a meeting, if you have a training, do all the trainings as and when due and be visible. Now, when it comes to the job that you're meant to do, to be honest, a lot of you, before you even finish this 10 weeks, the time is up before you figure out exactly what you're really meant to be doing. So I would say, as much as it can be challenging, don't be too hard on yourself. I've seen interns just get so overwhelmed with the fact that they can't even understand what their team is doing. So it's like, oh my God, am I going to get this offer or not? Do people like me or not? Just make sure that you're calm. Ask questions. Ask a lot of questions because trust me, nobody expects you. And most times, the question is not stupid. You think the question is stupid, but there's no way you will know it if you don't ask, and there's no way they expect you to know it. And trust me, they're not even judging you that you don't know it because they don't expect that you know it. And even if you think they expect that you know it, still ask. And that's why you need to be emotionally intelligent to know where to ask, when to ask, and who to ask. So if you think it might be kind of dumb to ask someone who is senior, ask someone who is more junior, like someone who is an analyst that just started or did their internship the year before. They are probably just like you and know better. So you need to have friends at that level so that you can ask them all the questions you think are stupid. Just keep asking. Have someone who you can confide in to just share your concerns and everything. Make sure you stay organized. Spend all your time networking with people and making sure that they know you for the right reasons and do everything that you're asked to do. Keep people updated on what you're doing. That's also something I did during my internship. So I always sent weekly updates to all the senior people that I worked with so that they can remember me and know like "This is what this intern is doing. This is impressive. These are the people she has spoken with over the course of her internship. And then and typically, you would have a project that you're working on, which you need to present on at the end of your internship. That's also an opportunity for you to shine. So make sure that that project you give it your all, and your presentation is the best presentation you can ever give. Because you're gonna have senior people judging you, and that's the moment they make the decision. But sometimes they have made the decision in their head even before their presentation because they know you, they see your work, they know that okay, this girl is good. So regardless of your presentation, they're going to give you the offer. So just make sure you do all these things. I think you'll be fine.
Question actually would be can you just tell us a little bit about what your experience has been since you've gotten a return offer? How are you finding your career? How are you finding Bank of America now that you are a full-time staff?
I mean, see, I'm glowing.
I agree, 100%.
I think Bank of America is everything they claimed before I joined. So you know how before you join a company, you're like, are they just selling it to me, or are they really what they think, what they claim to be? Turns out the company is really what they claim to be. And when people used to tell me that they used to say the greatest asset of the company were the people, and the best thing they have is their people. I'm like, buzzwords, blah blah blah. But it's true. Turns out it's true because people are genuinely nice in the company. You would meet people at different levels who are willing to speak with you. It's something that still shocks me even till today. More than 1 year, and I'm like, damn, I'm very lucky because I digress, but I must just mention this on the side. I watched that video where they were interviewing one elderly Nigerian celebrity. I'll not mention her name. And she was saying, "Oh, why would you call me by name? Blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, rest, Auntie, in Jesus' name, because my mind is probably older than you by name, and it's not even a big deal. I understand cultural differences and all, but please, here. And it makes your life easier knowing that you can just walk up to someone and tell them what you're genuinely thinking. Nobody will ever shut you down or make you feel intimidated. It's actually a culture where you can grow and learn and also have a life outside of work. So depend honestly, I need to caveat this because it really depends on what you're doing. For some people in my company don't really have that much time, to be honest. But I'm lucky to be in a team where there's a bit of flexibility on hours. I don't have to work on weekends, and I can have a life. I can have these like I can actually do things. I can travel and just do other things. I can still have a podcast on the side, and no one is saying, "Oh, it's because of our podcast that she's not doing one thing." One thing. Nobody is judging you, and like you can be yourself. However you are, you can just bring yourself that way to the office. I studied law, but the thing I'm doing today is not related to law, and I learned everything on the job. There's no uni where I would have learned what I'm doing today. I literally learned everything on the job, still learning on the job, looking like I'm even going to switch to another team next year, and I'm very excited about the prospects and the opportunities to learn. It's a really good opportunity because, I mean, if I had decided to do something else, I'm not even sure I would have learned as much as this. And obviously, it's a rewarding opportunity as well. So I always advise young people that please, if you get this opportunity, make sure you secure the.
I'm sure that the information that you've provided will be of great help to a lot of people who are interested in applying for this kind of global opportunities. Right. So where can we find you in case people are looking to just follow you on LinkedIn and on social media basically? Whichever platform that you are comfortable sharing.
Yeah, LinkedIn is fine. My name on LinkedIn is my full name, Veronica. I know, and you can just type my name. You find me. I'm wearing a blue dress, smiling.